We need Colombia, through its ongoing health reform discussion, to put communities at the center of health systems.
Okay, in the first place, I want to speak with you about an important event like the Afro-descendant woman. I want to ask you about the representation. Why is it important that you represent us in places like the director about ONUSIDA? What is the important part about the representation in an Afro-descendant woman?
Afro-descendant women living in the diaspora of Africa face not only the gender discrimination that we all face from patriarchy globally, but also are on the receiving end of the harshest, most violent forms of racism and aggressive, violent capitalism and militarism. I have traveled in this region and I see the data, the social and economic outcomes in this region of Latin America are worst for Afro-descendant people, and among them, Afro-descendant women. So I came here at the invitation of your Vice President, who her own election, her own appointment as Vice President is historic, and she's playing a historic role in bringing us all together as Black women from Africa, from the diaspora of Africa, to stand together, to make our struggle visible, to make our voices heard. So I came to join her and other women to make a demand, a call for a United Nations Day for the rights of Afro-descendant women. And I am taking this demand together with me to the highest level of the United Nations, to Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who is my boss, to ask him to look into this, because we need the global solidarity to address patriarchy, militarism, capitalism that is pushing.
Yeah, and give us an opportunity to take decisions in our lives.
Absolutely.
Because you are our representation. And the next question that I have for you is about your work, and is other thing that is important for us. What are the strategies that we can analyze for tell about our children or friends different topics about ONUSIDA?
You're asking me a question about the role of education and in promoting good health of people. Well, I'll take it back to how you can fight a disease like HIV and end it. We know from a long experience of working on HIV that although everything is there for prevention, to stop people getting infected, and we have also a lot of scientific tools for getting people on treatment, but many people still get infected. In Colombia, 9,000 people were infected last year, whom we know. Could be more. We also know that people are still dying, even though they can go on treatment and not die. So why? Because they face inequalities in access to information, in access to the health system to get condoms and to get everything they need, and in access to, and lack of rights. The rights, the freedom to make choices for yourself, like sexual violence. You might want not to be infected, but if you are forced into unprotected sex. So we know that we need to work through education, through community services, community empowerment, through the health system which reaches everybody who has a need, through human rights promotion and defense through civil society organizations in order to address a disease like HIV. So What you're asking me about the education system, yes, education must include sexuality education, especially for girls. How can you know about, how can you protect yourself from infection if you don't even know about your body and how to live a healthy life? So we have to use the education system, but we also have to use communities, empower communities, mothers to know what is right, the right food, the right health care, the right sanitation for their children. So we say you need a multi-sector approach, an approach which involves all departments of government to address a disease like HIV. But most importantly, we say that it is communities that will protect people's health, deliver people's right to health. So you need your government. We need Colombia through its ongoing health reform discussion to put communities at the center of health systems. We need to have communities empowered with rules that make them part of health service delivery, but also with resources to reach their people. It is communities who know who needs help. It's communities who are trusted to give prevention messages. So communities are very important here, but also getting the education, the health, the Ministry of Gender, of Equality, to all work together to protect, to give people the right to health.
My final question for you is about inequality. Because if we analyze that it's important to have education to support other ideas, other projects about this, it's necessary still to analyze that it's not the same when you analyze the situation in the principal cities and the territories. And since this, my question is this: how we can to support or to create strategies for when you are trying to support or to confront your health? Because in Bogota is necessary, or you can just go to different places, I don't know, Pro Familia. But in other places like territories where you can find schools or different things like this, how you can or how these communities can to support or to confront their health.
Addressing inequalities is key. Reducing inequalities is the way through which you can give everybody their right to health, their right to education, their right to a good life. If I look at this region of Latin America, it is the most unequal region in the world. So the highest levels of inequality are in this region. And that is why many people are in countries that are rich like yours, but are still living a quality of life that is having no quality of life because of these inequalities. I said to your minister today that Colombia is very rich country. The resources, the industrial base, the technology, the scientific base, huge. However, on HIV, only 77% of people living with HIV have been tested. So you have about 200,000 people living with HIV. Maybe only about 150 have been tested. A small country like Swaziland, very poor in Africa, has already passed 95% of its people have been tested and are on treatment. So it tells you that this is because of inequality, because Colombia has more money put even in its health system, but it is not reaching the last person. It is staying here and helping those who are already rich, right? So it's a question of addressing that inequality, reaching those who are not reached today. And who are they? It is the Afro descendants, it is the indigenous people, it is the people living in the territories, it is not your urban rich people. So the challenge for Colombia and this region is very much about not leaving anybody behind, closing the inequality gaps. Challenging inequalities is the most important way to achieve the right health for everybody and to end AIDS. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.